The end result is that we got, after that parliamentary elections, a majority of the House was Islamists, either the Muslim Brotherhood or the Salafis, okay? And they were rushing to establish the constitutional committee, the drafting committee, making it, okay, like I think 50-some or 60% to be from parliament in order to ensure that most of them would be in this committee in order to write the constitution. Anyway, it was, the committee was, you know, annulled and whatever. Anyway, so you have this problem of the referendum, okay? That put the cart, basically, it did put the cart before the horse, okay? And immediately after the revolution, as I've been trying to explain now, we have two political paradigms that emerged. We have the Islamic paradigm and we have the liberal secular paradigm. Now, these two paradigms came out after the revolution. One is extremely organized and has an organized following, not necessarily a majority, but an organized following, and people who believe in and abide by the rules of hierarchy. If your leader says you do this, then you do it. This is the Islamist model. And the secular liberal is divided between secularists, liberals, leftists, communists, okay? So you have a lot of small factions with they all agree to the civility and the fact that Egypt has to be a secular state, okay? But they are divided amongst themselves. They were unable to rally, unable to connect with one another, and to win even seats in parliament, enough seats in parliament. Whereas the other group is different. They are very, very organized, and they know exactly what they want and where they're going to get it and how they're going to. Okay? With the emergence of these two political paradigms, a state, now this is what is very interesting to our discussion here, and that is the fact that we now have a very serious social conflict, because you have two groups that are diametrically opposed. Each group is trying to win over the public to its side, and there is a constant state of conflict on the political level and also on the social level. And since we are a people who have been like bottled up for 60 years, and now you have removed the lid, so we cannot agree to disagree. We can only disagree. And so we have problems, and people are, you know, all the time on talk shows and things, they're always insulting one another, and they're always, you know, there is this state of anger that is bottled up, that is channeled in these directions. And there's a lot of conflict, because people really get very, very serious about these things, and friends don't talk to one another, and it's, you know, it's becoming terrible, okay? This polarization is just tearing the country apart, because every faction is trying to take the people, to win the people on its side. And as it does that, the people are confused, and it becomes, people get angrier at one another, there are a lot of conflicts and a lot of competition. This polarization reached its climax during the presidential elections, okay? As you can see, this is actually the positive side. You see people going to the polls, people trying to, you see those nice young ladies, they even photograph themselves with, you know, you have to put your thumb or your forefinger in some sort of ink that refuses to go. I still have it until now. Honestly, it's like, you know, it's like cement. It's not, I have tried. Did you get it out of your finger?
Yeah.
Good for you. I have been trying, but that's why I keep using very, very strong nail polish. Anyway, so seriously, it doesn't go. So anyway, people are going to to the polling stations. People are so excited that they, for the first time in their lives, they're going out to vote and to say what they really, who they really want. Okay. And here are, we had 13 candidates, okay? And the 13 candidates, the finalists were those people. We have an Islamist, Abdullah al-Futuh, okay, on the right-hand side. He used to be part of the Muslim Brotherhood, but he left, or so he says. And we have Amr Musa, who is the former Secretary General of the Arab League. Is a secularist, liberal. You have Hamdin Sabahi, who is a Nasserite, socialist, extreme socialist. And you have Mohammed Morsi, who is the Muslim Brotherhood man. And you have Ahmed Shafiq, who is our former Prime Minister during the revolution, okay? And he was also Minister of Aviation. And he's an army officer, former Army General. Okay? So these are the people who emerged after the first 13. And then it boiled down to those two. The former Army General, okay, the former member of the regime, and the representative of the Muslim Brotherhood. See how the polarization ended up. And finally we got Mohammed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood. I will stop here before I go on again. There are a lot of details that I would be happy to talk about, but if you have any questions, please shoot now.
Yes, I think I heard that among the 13, that 39% of the vote went to like a combination of people who were part of the revolution, maybe more secular democracy. But maybe my question is, hypothetically, if they had instant runoff voting, where I'm from the U.S. and there's like another like major one, like you have a spoiler effect, so you can end up with someone that less people want. So if there could have been instant runoff voting, like you could say, this is my first choice, or my second choice, or my third choice, do you think you would have ended up with a different, like you end up with people that everyone doesn't want because you have all the spoiler effect?
Yes, so, yes, you are quite right. I mean, I fully agree with you. The thing is, what happened in Egypt was that we had 13 candidates, okay? And so the votes were divided. But the interesting thing is that the Nasserite leftists got a lot of votes. It's interesting, but also expected, because again, for psychological reasons, people are sick and tired of extreme capitalism, and I think this is the way the world is going as well. I mean, in France, we see, all this. So this is one thing. And the fact that there were a lot of divisions is what caused eventually us ending up with the runoff was between those two. Now what happened was that a lot of the revolutionaries and a lot of the people who were anti-Islamists voted for the Islamists. Why did they do that? They said, because we don't want anyone from the former regime. So we will vote for the Islamists, just not to get anyone from the former regime. Like, in other words, cutting off their noses to spite their faces, and this is what we got. Now the danger here is that the Muslim Brotherhood, okay, if they come, they don't leave. They won't leave. This is my expectation.
Would you have preferred Shafiq?
I would have preferred Shafiq, although I didn't vote for him first time, and I never would have voted for him. He was not my first choice. But you see, when you are deciding the fate of a nation, you have to look ahead. okay? I cannot look under my feet. Now, the choice is very difficult. This is a horrible choice between, it's the devil or the deep blue sea, okay? This is really what we were in, the devil or the deep blue sea. What do you do? Which choice do you take? The way I saw it was the following. I would just say, okay, I have one of two options. Either not to cast my vote, which a lot of people did, okay, or to think ahead, which is the lesser evil. If we got Ahmed Shafiq, we could get rid of him. But if you get the Muslim Brotherhood, you will not get it. For two reasons. Ahmed Shafiq, you would demonstrate, you would riot, you would do whatever you want, and he will have to step down. Like Mubarak. He will have to. He doesn't have a choice. In 2 years and 4 years, whatever. And the army will not support anyone against anyone. The army, SCAF is not interested in killing the people for any person. Okay, they're not going to do that. So he would have stood alone anyway. You demonstrate, he will fall if you want him out. But the Muslim Brotherhood, you can't do that. Why? A, they have a large following on the streets from the people, emotionally. And B, they have their own militia. So if you say no, they can, hire people to kill on the streets. Okay? Of course, they are denying that they have their own militia. I don't believe them. Okay? Again, I'm talking from a very personal perspective. Many Egyptians will disagree with me. Okay? But this is my very personal perspective. I have read the history of the Muslim Brotherhood. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have my ideas about that. And I know they're not going to step there. No matter what. They have been fighting underground for 80-some years, and now is the time they got to power. They're not going to leave easily.
Can they become more moderate when they're in power?
No, because
there's a theory
how can you become moderate? I mean, what's the meaning of moderate? I'm a Muslim. I consider myself a moderate Muslim. Okay? They consider me an atheist. You see, it all depends. I mean, I know your question is coming from the fact that these are things that are also proliferating in Western media and in the US. I mean, the US is very, very happy with, the Muslim Brotherhood ascending to power, and it's like, fantastic, they're moderate.
I didn't think that. I don't think the US is happy.
No, I think the government is. This is what Hillary Clinton has declared. Hillary Clinton came 2 weeks ago to visit in Egypt. They heard her with tomatoes and eggs on the street. Nobody wants her because she actually said, the Muslim Brotherhood are moderate, and we're going to work with them. And then you have this thing in Congress where there is this allegation that they are going to start an investigation because the U.S. government, the U.S. State Department has given Mohammed Morsi $50 million for his campaign.
So it doesn't go against the peace. But before Morsi won, people were very suspicious of, I live near Old King, France, people were very against, afraid. The people are frightened of the Muslim Brotherhood. But maybe since they won, they figured they have to accept reality. But they were not, people were negative, and more progressive people were saying they're more moderate.
Yeah, moderate is a very relative word. In answer to
more nonviolent, maybe they're more nonviolent.
So far. Well, I was just listening to one of the people who was imprisoned and accused of the murder of Saddam, Tarek Zumur, on television 3 days ago in a talk show, and he was talking about all sorts of things, and that we've done a lot of revisions, and of course violence is no good. Those people have killed Egyptian people, let alone others. They have killed Egyptian people, they have killed tourists, etc. So the Muslim Brotherhood are not very violent, that is true. But that is no reason to to accept, the problem is you go against Shafiq, okay, and you're going against Shafiq or a regime. You go against Morsi and they're going to tell you you are going against religion. That's very dangerous. And that is why, that is really so surprising for me that the American government cannot understand that. You go against somebody who represents the Muslim Brotherhood, they will turn it into you going against religion. It's not, it doesn't, it's just as simple as that, yes.
Yeah, but what is with the inside fight? Within the Muslim Brotherhood, there are also different factions.
Yes, yes.
And there are also people who are in power, who know about the Quran well, and you have a good education, and there is an inside, it's not one block, it's like, moving, and that it could be that some other factions, younger factions, get like stronger. I mean, also Abdel Fattah was not the same like Morsi, or there are differences, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
but you know something, I mean, again, and this is also my very personal perspective. When you have an ideology that is not democratic, it is not democratic, I mean, democracy is not inherent in it. How can you have, even if they are moderate, if they are different, okay, Abu Fattah is very different, okay? But you should have, but hear Abu Fattah speak. And you will know that at the end of the day, he belongs to the same ideology. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, both of us live in Egypt and we see those people all the time. Abu Fattah would, talk to you about, a secular country and advancement and modernity and then he would stand up and deny the fact that, murdering somebody like Sadat was a bad thing to do. What are we talking about? I mean, yeah.
I agree with almost everything you said, but I'm questioning a little bit how much power the Muslim Brotherhood really does have now in the government. I mean, for example, they appointed many ministers from this Caux. For me, it shows that this Caux is still very powerful. The parliament got dissolved, or the Muslim Brotherhood had a lot of seats, and many incidents show that this Caux is still playing a big deal.
Yeah, you are right, because SCAF now has legislative power, but SCAF also has physical power, okay? So, of course they are the most powerful faction, yeah. But, appointing, they're not appointing people from SCAF, they're just appointing the Tantawi. He can't get rid of Tantawi. Tantawi is ruling the country, okay? He has the power. Nobody can get rid of him. He has the tanks, okay? Machine guns. But if you are telling me they don't have power, oh yes they do. They have power. They have a lot of power with the people. They have a lot of their people inside. The thing is, in Egypt, it's very difficult for Shafiq or SCAF or Morsi or, God knows who, okay, even if it be, God forgive me, Jesus Christ, to infiltrate the system. The system is so bureaucratic, so tight, so deep. It's very difficult to infiltrate it. And that is why when we talk about reform, which is really the focus of what I'm trying to say here, is that reform will come from the people and not from the leaders. But the Muslim Brotherhood have power, have at least cultural power. Yes?
What about Egypt on the international scene? Like, for example, when the Human Rights Council addresses Egypt and their position on international human rights duties, or the International Criminal Court having duty, and I think the Muslim Brotherhood's position regarding those duties is certainly
Absolutely.
So, is there going to be? Do you think there's going to be pressure on the government to accede to those conventions, or maybe they will just leave it alone, do whatever they want?
There must be some sort of pressure, but maybe not just right now. Now, I'll give you just a small example. Egypt had ratified CEDAW, for example, okay, 1981, 1981. Now, if you mention CEDAW, they want to kill you. Because they tell you, no, CEDAW is just a horrible, horrible thing, but it's CEDAW.
Like the convention on
the women against women.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they think that this is a horrible
with
thing.
Islam. I think they would think it conflicts with Islam.
Exactly. and they've been fighting it and so on. So that you are quite right, we're going to have a lot of problems. And the only hope would be to show goodwill, the Brotherhood to show, or this government to show goodwill by succumbing to, international treaties and what. But right now, honestly, I don't think that this is a priority. Right now, we are suffering from.
National.
No, we haven't. We're in a big mess. For starters. Okay.